Hey, what's up guys? Taylor here from Modern Arcade, and today we're talking about the original Crash Bandicoot games and whether or not they're worth playing in 2018. If you haven't played them, the Crash Bandicoot games are all standard platformers where you run, jump, and spin to overcome obstacles, avoid creatures, and collect apples, crates, and gems in order to keep the evil Dr. Neo Cortex from, well, doing something evil. Every level has a fairly linear structure and contains a pink crystal you need to collect in order to advance. And for the more advanced players, there are secret areas with hidden collectibles and a bonus time trial mode you can unlock after finishing each level the first time. If you're fast enough, you can earn for each level the coveted Platinum Relic, but that feature wasn't introduced until the third game, Crash Bandicoot Warped, even though it was implemented into all three games when they remade them for the PS4 last year. Okay, I'm getting way ahead of myself. I'm going to start back at the beginning, in 1994 when Sony first entered the video game market with its 32-bit system, the PlayStation, competing with industry giants Nintendo and Sega, each who already had their respective mascots, of course talking about Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog. Crash Bandicoot filled that role for Sony when his first game came out just over a year after the PlayStation's launch, when Sony commissioned relatively new developer Naughty Dog to make a game that could compete with the other guys' popular platformers. I'll get this one out of the way quickly. Don't play it. It does not hold up. It is, however, one of the first console games to have ever implemented full motion cutscenes and used voice acting, so it was ahead of its time there. But everything else about this game suffers from what I'm calling first game anguish. The controls are too imprecise, and the challenge rating is high, and I think these are most likely due to hardware limitations. I really don't think Naughty Dog was trying to make a difficult game, and that's clear to me by the abundance of the Aku Aku masks they provide throughout each level, which of course grants us temporary invincibility and giving us lots of room for error. The biggest reason I think this game falls flat, though, is the overworld, the level select screen. It uses the same design as Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario World, which were already outdated games from the previous generation. What this game does have that those don't is a through line. It tells a solid story right from the very beginning, introducing the villain and tells us what's at stake, which does motivate us to collect all of the crystals throughout each painstakingly ridiculous level. But by today's standards, that motivation is very weak and too outlandish for us to really take seriously. And even when this game was brand new, it isn't like people were rushing to the store to clear this game off the shelves because of the plot. It was popular because it was new, it was different. The graphics were amazing for the time, if you can believe it, and it was more accessible than the Sega Saturn, which came out at the exact same time, which never even released a Sonic title. Seriously, what happened there? It really is my opinion that if that system, the Sega Saturn, hadn't been such a failure, it's very possible that Crash Bandicoot and the Sony PlayStation would not have come close to achieving the level of success that they did. And by the time the Dreamcast came out 4 years later, Sony had already gained too much ground and Sega was never able to recover, but that's a topic for a different video. Okay, back to Crash Bandicoot. Because of the success Sony did achieve, they were able to develop 2 more Crash Bandicoot games. And Crash Bandicoot 2 definitely shows a huge graphical improvement with smoother textures and greater detail, as well as a more immersive story, and best of all, the 3D level select interface. Yes, this makes more sense. The game can still be pretty difficult the further you advance, especially to newcomers, and it's full of secrets that modern gamers today would never be able to find without looking online for hints. So does it hold up? Not really. I'll put an asterisk next to it though, because the hardcore completionists may still enjoy it. A lot of these levels feel like unpolished versions of levels that could appear in the next game in the series, Crash Bandicoot Warped, which absolutely does hold up, and here's why. All the technical complications that bog down gameplay in the other 2 games are finally gone. The controls here are appropriately responsive, the difficulty level is evened out, the boss fights are actually fun and not just annoying, and the level select area functions as a plot device in a story filled with wacky characters that actually bring some humor to this crazy adventure. The music is inspiring instead of feeling recycled, and the graphics, well, they're pretty good. If graphics are the one thing you really can't get past, then it is worth getting the Insane Trilogy. It's a complete remake from the ground up of all 3 games, fully rendered in 1080p with a remastered soundtrack and voice recordings. But see if you can wait for a sale, because in my opinion, Warped really is still the only one worth playing. Even though the other 2 are remade and feel more modern, they still suffer from the same setbacks I mentioned earlier. If you can't get enough Crash after you finish Warped, it is worth going back to the other 2. But if you don't have a lot of time, Warped is the only one really worth playing still, like I said. It is the best one. It has a healthy blend of your running levels, jet ski levels, there are motorcycle racing levels, there are tiger riding levels. If for no other reason, play the game for the tiger levels. So if you're ever browsing Reddit gaming and come across a Crash Bandicoot tiger riding meme, you will know what it means and what we're talking about. You know what, I guess the difficulty level can still be high on Warped, but in this case, it's worth it. So overall, these 3 games were a great jumpstart to a studio that has gone on to make timeless classics like Uncharted and The Last of Us. From the get-go, these guys have always made narrative their most important consideration, which I really appreciate, but maybe it's a less important feature in platforming games than in an adventure game or an RPG. But if they had to make Crash Bandicoot first to figure those things out, then I am totally okay with it. We got at least one great game and a franchise that helped make Sony a strong competitor in the video game industry. Well, that's it, you guys. Thanks so much for paying attention. I hope you were able to take something away from this, because as always, it's our job here at Modern Arcade to keep you from wasting your time on old, irrelevant crap, so you can spend it instead playing those classics that are actually worthwhile. If this review was at all useful to you, let me know that down in the comment section. Or if you think it was all crap, then let me know that too. I always appreciate your feedback, and we'll be doing more of these Does It Hold Up videos weekly, so if you want to keep getting them and hear our opinions about these classic games, go ahead and hit that red subscribe button. And please, have a great rest of your day, night, weekend, or life.